I suck at World of Warcraft. I've been playing this game for almost 20 years, on and off. I've made heaps of videos on this channel talking about the game, playing the game, explaining bits of the story and the lore, and it's genuinely my favourite game of all time. Yet, I'm pretty bad at it. There are a few reasons for this. I've not always been able to afford a subscription, especially when I was younger. I've often been too busy to play, and honestly, a lot of the time, I just actually haven't felt like it. God, when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, I straight up didn't play anything else for fully 6 months. But really, when it comes down to it, the main reason that I am bad at World of Warcraft is because I don't care about being good. Now, I cannot stress enough that this hot take of mine isn't me trying to be all aloof and above it all, saying like, yeah man, whatever, I don't even care about being good at the game, I'm too cool for that. I am simply too feral about World of Warcraft to ever be aloof about it in any way. What I'm trying to say, and what I will hopefully be able to open your eyes to by the end of this video, is that there is so much fun and joy and excitement to be found within this game, no matter what level you're playing it at. And I think that's something that's very easily forgotten, especially in this current era of the game. First of all, I think we need to lay down some foundations. Why is this a hot take? Why is there so much pressure on players to be good at World of Warcraft? And what does good even mean in this context? That's a lot to unpack in and of itself. I've done a fair amount of research into this. Whilst the concept of this video and the message that I am trying to convey has been born from my own experiences within the game, I feel that I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't take into account the community's perspective on these issues. Ultimately, WoW is a game built on and around community, and that plays a huge role in everything I want to talk about today. So, what is the general consensus on what makes someone good at WoW? Turns out that's actually kind of hard to define. A lot of people will look to in-game stats, things like achievements, ratings in Mythic Plus and PvP, things that give the player somewhat of a score, a number that other players can see and then interpret. This sort of thing is pretty important if you're doing that kind of content, as you're often wanting to form groups with other players at a similar skill level. And if your numbers match up, then that's a pretty good indication that you might want to group up with that player. And then big number can easily be associated with good player. But that's only one facet of the game. A lot of players might consider someone good if they've collected hundreds of mounts or appearances. In modern retail WoW specifically, you might consider someone good at the game if they have the craziest, most amazingly gorgeous in-game house you've ever seen. Or perhaps it's someone who knows the lore inside and out and has done like every quest available. There are too many different parts of this game and different ways to play it to actually settle on a solid definition of a good player. So if you can't really solidly define a good player, why am I here talking about being a bad player? I think it's a lot easier to identify someone who's not good at the game. And I think that someone is me. I'm not that great at combat. I don't really optimize my talents very well, and half the time I just end up panicking and randomly mashing buttons as fast as I can, even with the assisted highlight turned on. I've been playing my same Death Knight for over 10 years now, and most of my knowledge about how to play that class is just pure muscle memory. I don't know half the names of my abilities. I'm pretty sure I don't even have half of them on my action bars because I get very overwhelmed by all the specific use case ones outside my normal rotation. I've missed a lot of content. Genuinely, the only times I've been properly up to date with content and not having to play catch up was at the very beginning of Dragonflight and during the Undermine and Koresh patches last expansion. Right now, in Midnight, I'm still doing the leveling campaign. I've hit max level, but I haven't started Voidstorm yet. I don't really enjoy doing dungeons and raids more than like a couple of times. And I typically don't do any group content outside of occasionally Dungeon Finder and very occasionally LFR. Oh, I always forget about my professions. I haven't really collected many mounts or toys or anything. I never really get around to finishing up my renown tracks. I think it's pretty safe to say that I'm just not really very good at the game. It's a funny thing, feeling that way, whilst also agreeing with the sentiment that being good at the game is tricky to define. But it is something I've always felt, and something I've always been really self-conscious about. Not ever really wanting to admit all of the ways in which I play the game because it hasn't felt like I'm doing it properly in comparison to everyone else. So why is that? Why is there so much pressure to be good at WoW? This is definitely a bit more of a meaty question, and a heavily debated one online. One of the biggest issues that people, especially newer or more casual players, face in the game is the attitude of get good or get the fuck out. Let's say that you're a relatively new player. You've just joined a random group to do a dungeon that you've never done before. You make a simple mistake, like maybe running the wrong way, or pulling too much trash, or maybe just not doing as much DPS as the rest of the group. There is a very high likelihood that someone in your group will get really mad at you and start calling you out in the chat, or maybe even trying to kick you from the group. WoW is infamous for not being very new player friendly, and the way that certain people will react to new players in a group situation is a huge part in this. It's not everyone, and it's in no way guaranteed to happen, but seasoned players hating on new or casual players is a huge problem in the game. And it's prevalent enough for people who've never even played the game before to know about it. Now, as a more casual player myself, I'm aware that I am hugely biased about this. This sort of thing happens to me all the time, especially as I like leveling new classes that I've never tried, and I'm not super familiar with a whole lot of dungeons. And even on my main, as I've mentioned, I get very panicky in combat sometimes, and that's not super helpful. So I spent quite a bit of time delving into forums and Reddit posts discussing why players tend to react like this and whether or not that's valid. To play devil's advocate to myself, there were a few key points I saw raised. A lot of more seasoned players are just trying to go about their day, quickly run some dungeons, and are very frustrated when it seems like somebody's joined their group just expecting to be carried through. Quite a few people suggested that it's the new player's responsibility to let everyone know that they're new to the game, and might not necessarily know what they're doing. That then sets everyone in the group's expectations and gives the other players the opportunity to jump in and help out if they're able. There was also quite a bit of agreement that you shouldn't be entering into content if you don't know what you're doing. I can see where these people are coming from. I don't agree with them. Oh, no, that's not quite it. I think there is a fair amount of validity in there. It's just that within the game you often see this attitude taken all the way into the extreme, and suddenly new players are feeling like they're being punished for simply being new to the game. Casual players feel guilty about not playing enough to be as skilled as the more hardcore players, and people who just want to have fun and enjoy the game are turned off from playing because they feel a whole lot of pressure to be good at it. But this is also a problem that extends beyond the in-game interpersonal stuff to the actual structure and content of the game itself. There's a lot of discussions going on at the moment about whether WoW actually has too much to do, which, in my experience, is kind of tricky to explain to people who don't play the game, because how could it be bad that you've got too many cool things to do in the game? But I know a lot of people actively playing the game at the moment are feeling overwhelmed and unable to catch up with all of the current content. It's incredibly easy to feel like you're falling behind when new content is being added faster than you can play through it all. And that then contributes to feeling like you're bad at the game. And that sucks, because at the end of the day, WoW is a game. It's meant to be something that brings people joy and entertainment, not something that people are treating like a full-time job and getting burnt out over. Enter me. I want to share with you my philosophy, which is to embrace sucking at the game. I want to clarify right now, ahead of the curve, that me saying this is not in any way trying to dunk on anyone who wants to be super mega amazing at the game. If you're out there doing hardcore mythic whatever raiding and crazy PvP stuff, collecting literally everything and getting all the achievements in the game and kicking ass, I totally support and respect you for that. as long as you're doing it because you enjoy it. If you're someone who's doing all of that stuff because you feel like you have to, and you're then wondering where all the magic in the game has gone, then my way of playing might help you rediscover that magic. I've already gone over all of the things I don't do and don't enjoy in the game. The raiding and the being good at combat and the actually doing current content. Now I want to tell you about everything I love doing. All of the weird things I enjoy in the game that might technically make me kind of suck at WoW, but are ultimately the reason that this game has never felt like a chore to me. I love making new characters. I love it so much. Sometimes I don't even actually make the characters. I just spend 20 minutes messing around in the character creation screen and then I leave. Other times I'll make a new character, play it for a couple of days, and then literally never touch it again. I'll get it to like level 30 and then go back to playing my main. And that character will never reach max level. But I never consider that time wasted because I enjoyed myself throughout all of it. I like running around and taking screenshots of aesthetically pleasing places. My desktop wallpaper is actually just like a rotating folder of all my favorite in-game screenshots. I like feeling like a virtual photographer. It's so much fun. Every time I start a new zone, I make a matching transmog to wear while I'm there. This does end up costing me a lot of gold. But it's totally worth it to me because I just enjoy transmog so much. Some of my favorites at the moment are my Arcane Mage in Netherstorm and my Death Knight doing Arator's questline in Midnight. I do run a lot of old dungeons and raids, but not super intensely. I love collecting stuff, but I don't really have the time to invest in fully committing to collecting a specific mount or like a whole tier set or something. Sometimes I'll just fly around until I come across an instance and go and run it for funsies. I just find it so satisfying to go in and one-shot everything. It's really fun. I'm very invested in questing. You'll know this if you've seen my other WoW videos in here, particularly my Burning Crusade Zone deep dives. I've never been one to gloss over quest text. I am immersing myself in that story and learning all of the lore. On a similar note, I've always consumed a lot of WoW content outside of the game itself. Probably more than I actually play the game. This was born out of necessity, really, since when I was younger, as mentioned, I couldn't always afford a subscription. But I was so passionate about the game, and I was always thinking about it, so I'd constantly be watching YouTube videos about it in the months between renewing my sub. My lovely friends from high school would probably be able to vouch for how much time I spent rewatching every single Tellius and Nevertell video, or how many of my in-game characters I'd be drawing and making up stories for whilst listening to like 3-hour-long videos explaining the lore. Oh my god, or how much of the music I would be listening to on a daily basis. I think the biggest thing I do that really bolsters my enjoyment in World of Warcraft and is a huge part of why I've been immersed in the game for so long is getting super invested in my characters. I've already said that the story of WoW is a huge draw for me, but that's multiplied by about 1,000,000% when I'm viewing that story through the eyes of my own characters. Something I've mentioned quite a few times in passing on this channel is that I genuinely enjoyed Shadowlands, and I hold on to that as my hot take to end all hot takes, but I've never explained why I enjoyed it so much, and part of the reason I haven't talked about that is because it's something that I think could be perceived as a little bit silly. It could lead one to think that perhaps I am not very good at this game, but we're embracing that today, so let me share my anecdote with the world. As was often the case back then, I was a bit late to the party, not being able to start playing through Shadowlands until a few months after it had already been released. Because of this, I was already aware that not everyone was super keen on it. This was still pretty early on, before the content drought and some of the late game story stuff that people weren't super impressed with, but there was definitely more than a few rumblings of discontentment. Me being me, ever the optimist, I went into it feeling pretty excited. I've always been someone who tends to enjoy even the shitty parts of the game, because I'm just excited to experience it. I love the world, I love the characters. I'm just happy to be there, you know? After you do all of the intro stuff in the Moor, the first zone that you're sent to in the story of Shadowlands is Bastion. The first quest you get there, titled Welcome to Eternity, has your character mistaken for someone who has genuinely died back on Azeroth and has thus been sent to Bastion for all of their good deeds in life. When I played through this, it was on my main, who is a Death Knight. I read through this quest text where my Death Knight was being welcomed to the afterlife and praised for all of the good she did, and I got very choked up. I thought about the way that my character, who had already died before but been denied any sort of peaceful afterlife and being raised as a Death Knight, would react to being told this. I thought that, for a moment at least, maybe she let herself believe that that's what was happening, that perhaps she had finally reached the place where she could spend her eternity. And it was a place of light and hope and honor. Perhaps this meant that she was truly forgiven for every atrocity she'd committed under the thrall of the Lich King long ago. So I played through the rest of the Shadowlands story with that thought in my mind, and I think I emotionally imprinted on the entire expansion accidentally, because thinking about my tragic Death Knight character exploring these various afterlives just made me so emotional, and now I can't listen to the Bastion music without wanting to cry a little bit. That was a whole tangent. But what I'm trying to say is that even if you feel like you're bad at the game, or if you feel like you're enjoying the wrong part of it, or aren't engaging with WoW in the way that social media or other players you meet in game are expecting you to, that doesn't make your experience any less valid. You can suck at World of Warcraft, be the objective worst player in the world, if such a thing was measurable, and still come away with an incredibly meaningful and fulfilling experience. World of Warcraft is about more than just the numbers. There are so many layers to it, so many different aspects of the game, and each of them can mean something different to different people. I want to end this video with some specific advice to anyone who thinks they might be bad at WoW and wants a more tangible way to enjoy the game a little bit more. I can't protect anyone from dickheads who will talk shit at you in the game, or people in comment sections or forums telling you you're not playing the game right, but I can suggest some other ways to find joy and fun within WoW. If you are a new player, my biggest advice, honestly, is to ignore what's current content. Starting this game for the first time is confusing and overwhelming. There's over 20 years worth of content here. Experiencing all of it will take a very long time, and the game isn't really set up for you to experience the whole story in a linear fashion. My recommendation would be to find something that interests you, something that really captures your attention, and just focus on that. Don't pay attention to what you should be doing or what's being added right now. Find something that you want to learn more about or experience more of, and just do that for a bit. That could be a specific bit of lore. Maybe you're really interested in those Worgen guys and you want to play through their starting zone and level one up and find out all about their lore. It could be a gameplay facet. Maybe you've heard all about these newfangled delves. I guess they're not really newfangled anymore, huh? But you want to go and do as many as you can. That's great! Find something that sparks joy and run with it. If you are a casual player and you feel bad about not being good at the game, or you feel like you're dragging behind everyone, my advice is to find some people who play the game at a similar pace to you. As I mentioned right at the top of the show, community is a huge part of this game, and I think a really important part of that is to find the right sort of people to make your community with. If you're shoved in a random dungeon group with someone who plays for multiple hours a day, and you're someone who plays maybe a couple of times a week, it can be so easy to feel like you are super inferior and like you're not playing enough. But if you were instead running that dungeon with people who match your energy, you'll probably have a way better time. Obviously, that can be sort of easier said than done, but I've seen more and more like-minded people show up on Instagram and TikTok and other social media, so there are definitely plenty of people out there in the same boat if you can find them. And finally, if you are someone who is good at the game, but are feeling super overwhelmed by WoW's current patch cadence and all the new content being added every other day, I cannot recommend enough taking some time to slow down. Spend some time playing the game slowly, mindfully even. Use a ground mount instead of flying everywhere. Read all of the quest text as you're leveling. Explore some places you've never been before. This is also something I'm seeing a lot of on social media at the moment. I think more and more people are realizing that the reason the game feels different to so many people these days isn't necessarily because the game has changed or gotten worse. It's that we're not experiencing it with the same awe and wonder that we used to. Especially if you're someone who grew up playing the game as a kid. We're all too busy grinding and pushing keys and keeping multiple characters up to date and like fully geared. We've forgotten that World of Warcraft, at the end of the day, is a game. And sometimes you suck at games, and that's okay. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this made even a little bit of sense. I am very passionate about how bad I am at this game and how much I enjoy myself regardless. And hopefully there were some people who watched this who felt seen or reassured. Extra special thank you to all of my lovely channel members and patrons. If you want to support me and the channel, you can join the Patreon at the link in the description or become a channel member right here on YouTube. Supporting on either platform will give you access to the Lani.exe Discord server, where we do indeed have a whole channel just dedicated to yapping about WoW. It's a great time. Everyone in there is super lovely and nice to chat to. Yeah, that's all from me. Hope you have a lovely day. Hope you have fun playing Midnight if that's what you're doing. Okay.